Hi Pisces, this is Mimi with Divination by Mimi. Welcome to your August 2017 Tarot Oracle with a little bit of astrology reading. There's a lot going on astrologically, so first we'll cover what's going on for you. In your zodiac sign or constellation, Pisces, your ruler Neptune is currently retrograde, as is Chiron, the wounded healer, also retrograde in Pisces. Let me just double check and make sure there's nothing else in Pisces right now. No. Neptune's in Pisces is retrograde. And Chiron's in Pisces and retrograde. I believe that's it. Just double checking. Yes, and I don't think you're going to see any other activity in your constellation for the remainder of the month other than the moon passing through. Just double checking. Yeah. The moon will be entering Pisces on the 9th, and that's about all the activity you can expect in yours is in your constellation, which is Neptune in retrograde and Chiron in retrograde. Those are relevant because Neptune's your ruler planet. Retrograde meaning it's revisiting old concepts and ideas of spirituality, reconsidering them. You're a very spiritual sign anyway. Many people don't even consider you, many astrologers don't even consider Pisces to be water, but rather ether. So, but just putting it for the simplicity factor of water, Neptune is very watery. It's very fluid. Duh. It's it is a flowing energy. There is no real boundaries when it comes to Neptune. So with that being your ruling planet, you can tend to be a person or have the tendencies to be not know your boundaries. In other words, give too much and all of a sudden you're depleted and you don't know how or why. Again, with Neptune going retrograde in your sign, which is pretty relevant, also coupled with Chiron in your sign going retrograde, this is the wounded healer. This is the healer who actually has a wound himself, which is hurting him. So again, this kind of calls to boundaries. The wounded healer is looking backwards, just as Neptune is looking backwards. I would say once again to look at the boundaries in your life. Do you know when to say no, Pisces? That kind of thing. Now, on a larger scale, not that you won't be affected personally, but we collectively will be affected by a few things. One is the retrograde for Mercury. Mercury is going retrograde on the 12th. That will happen in the sign of Virgo, and that's the August the 12th, and he will remain, or Mercury is an androgyne, so Mercury will remain in retrograde until the 5th of September. So with that, you know the usual warnings. Mechanical breakdowns are possible. Communication breakdown is very likely, being that Mercury is the messenger of the gods. When Mercury is in retrograde, it is difficult to know what is backwards and what is forward, so not all information may be coming through clearly. So keep this in mind when you're communicating with others, regardless of what medium you use. If it's word of mouth, if it's written, or whether it's online. Things could be misinterpreted, and with that thought, keep in mind that people communicating to you, things may not seem as they intend, and vice versa. So just keep that thought in mind that, okay, maybe it sounds like they were being snarky, but in fact they really weren't. It just came across that way. That's Mercury in retrograde. Being that there's mechanical breakdowns, there's also the consideration of the internet. So with online communication, an interruption could possibly be technical difficulties with the internet. It's just guaranteed. And that's coupled with the other things that have to do with technical breakdowns, like your car and appliances and stuff like that. So think of all that, be prepared for all of that. And lastly, a warning with the Mercury retrograde, because information will not be clear, communication will not be as potent as it normally would be. It might be clouded. If you can avoid it, do not contractually obligate yourself to anything long-term between the 12th of August and the 5th of September, primarily because the information will not be clear, that information that you would need in order to make an informed decision. All right, and then the two big, and I don't want to talk too long on this because we'll get to your card reading, but it is a big month. There are two eclipses occurring this month. The first one is a partial lunar eclipse that happens at 15 degrees Aquarius. So the full moon will be at 15 degrees Aquarius at 11, I think it's 11:21. Let me just double check that. No, excuse me, 2:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 15 degrees Aquarius, the full moon. The lunar eclipse happens 10 minutes later at 2:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, also at 15 degrees Aquarius. So the aspects occurring on that day, obviously there's a conjunction, but hold on, get you the details here. It's not a conjunction. My apologies, not a conjunction. So August the 7th, the moon is in an opposition with Mars, which is in Leo. And of course, with the moon being in Aquarius, will be directly across the natal chart. The moon is making a trine with Jupiter on that day. That's very good for emotions relating to relationships. That's usually where most of our emotions are sunk into anyway. Pisces, just beware of that because you are very emotionally based sign, very compassionate, feeling, empathic sign. So that will be a really good day, actually, the full moon. And then, that's for you, but that's collective as well. Then, when we move on to the 21st of August, that is the full solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. This is relevant for a few reasons. Number one, collectively, our soul's north node, so everyone in their natal chart, individually and collectively, we totally and collectively have a north and a south node. The south node is the mastered skills that we come into this incarnation with. Things we already know we don't need to learn, so we're good at these things. Wherever that south node lands in your natal chart will mean that those attributes you have mastered of that particular constellation or zodiac sign. Where the north node is are those attributes that you need to take on in order to make the next evolution in your growth, in your soul's growth. So collectively we have the same things, the same south node and north node. Right now, collectively, our north node is in the sign of Leo. It just so happens that the sun is also in Leo at this time, and so therefore the solar eclipse is occurring, the total solar eclipse is occurring in the sign of Leo. In fact, at the very tail end of Leo, I believe it's 28 degrees, yeah, 28 degrees and 53 seconds of Leo. There's only 2 more degrees before you've gone into Virgo at this point. So this is relevant because if we are all collectively moving toward the high octave attributes of Leo, those being confidence, autonomy, joy, love, creativity, self-expression, you know, the king and queen of the jungle, not in an arrogant way, not in a power-hungry way, but rather the high octave, which is a loving, autonomous way, okay? We're collectively learning these attributes. We need to learn these attributes for our soul's growth. With the eclipse, which is powerful, solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, but full eclipses particularly are very powerful, impactful energies that occur in the year. So we will find some major changes happening, possibly individually, but very likely collectively, macrocosmically. In addition to this eclipse occurring in the sign of Leo, where it just so happens that our soul's growth north node is in, right? The sun and the moon are making very interesting aspects on this exact day as well. They're trines. Trines are very positive aspects. So the moon, I'll start with that. The moon is making a trine with Saturn. The moon is about subconscious, intuition, emotion, compassion, feelings, the water, right? It's making a trine, a positive aspect with Saturn. Saturn is restrictive. So when I think of Saturn, I think of the government, the army, the IRS, the law, things like that, very stable institutions. When the moon is making a positive aspect with Saturn, it's almost, and I'm going to use this analogy again, I've been using it repeatedly, it's almost as if the moon is buttering up or softening Saturn, which is very often seen as a difficult and restrictive energy. When you soften someone, you butter them up for potential changes. And Saturn, sorry, I don't want to carry, I know I'm at 10 minutes now, I'll try to make it faster. Saturn is already in retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. So Saturn is already reconsidering how the tried and true is actually done and if it still fits the paradigm. Okay? So it's already in a situation where it's considering how things have always been and if they should remain that way. Compare this with the trine that's occurring, again, softening up Saturn for change is very positive. Okay, that's basically, to me, saying that those tried and true, it's always been this way, and if it works, why should we change it, is possibly being a little more malleable and flexible, and there might be changes that would benefit all of us. And that brings me to the next aspect. Another positive trine occurring between the Sun. Again, the Sun is in Saturn, Mars is in Saturn, and it's making a trine with Uranus. Uranus is in the sign of Aries, right? And Aries is a very fast-moving, powerful, fiery energy. Uranus is an unpredictable, unexpected changes type of energy. Uranus is kind of like Loki, the god Loki, who's kind of a trickster. He's like, let's try this. What happens if I pull this cord? I love chaos, that kind of thing. So in a way, it's like that. But because the aspect is trine, is very positive, and the Leo's already placed in his home sign in a very positive aspect when this solar eclipse occurs. So here we're talking about big changes. Now, and on the world stage, on a massive macrocosmic level. So at first, when unexpected things occur, it feels uncomfortable. It makes you feel like, whoa. And these are the type of changes we're talking about. We'll be like, whoa, did that really just happen? Be prepared to feel a little uncomfortable with that fact for a while. Some of these big changes that are occurring may throw you off your rocker a little bit. But I truly believe, because the aspects are positive, right, the trines are positive, that it's actually going to work out to our benefit, our collective benefit in the long run. So our main focus here is to focus on those positive attributes of Leo. And again, those are love, autonomy, confidence, not arrogance, confidence, self-expression, and creativity, and just love coming from the heart center. All right, I am sorry, that's 12 minutes of talking about astrology. Let's get into your reading, Pisces. I hope I haven't lost you. I'm going to do a three-card pull based on the top of the supernal triangle of the top of the Tree of Life. So if you follow the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, this would be Keter, Chokmah, Binah. If you follow the Kemetic Tree of Life, this would be Amen, Asur, Tehuti, and Sekert. For psychological purposes, this would be the superconscious, the conscious, and the subconscious mind. And I'm using a Rider-Waite-Smith-based deck, the Morgan Greer deck. A favorite, just because it's pretty, color saturation, kind of a fun 70s style. What do we need to know for Pisces? Ruled by Neptune, co-ruled by Jupiter. For the month of August, with all of the attributes that are occurring, the astrological aspects that are occurring. What messages does God Source want us to know? What's the highest high? What does our highest mind want Pisces to know? Oops. Got one. Got two. I got two for the third. All right, that was quick. So in the superconscious, let me get these all in view there. There. In the superconscious mind, you received the Eight of Swords in reverse. Oops. In the conscious mind, you received the Four of Swords in reverse. And in, I think Sagittarius got that too. In the subconscious mind, you got the Seven of Cups in reverse, along with the Two of Pentacles upright. So everything's reversed with the exception of Pentacles. So I believe that Source, God's Source, high mind is telling you that it's time for you to let go of some old thinking. With the retrogrades occurring, the majorly emotional retrogrades occurring in your sign in your constellation, that of Chiron, the wounded healer, revisiting old wounds, going retrograde, and Neptune, revisiting how you've handled things spiritually in the past. Also with Jupiter, your co-ruler, being direct in the sign of Libra, which is about relationships. I believe that the high mind is telling you right now to let go of the old way you used to think about things, the old hurts that are trapping you, making you feel a victim, because you're not a victim. It's all about the boundaries you put up. So I really think this is reiterating the boundaries that you're putting up. So it's important as it relates to relationships, as it relates to all kinds of relationships, not romantic only, but all of them, family, friends. Where do you draw your boundaries? Where do you draw your lines? And get out of the fact that you're always going to be victimized from situations involving relationships, because you give your heart fully. And with you, again, there are no boundaries. Everything's fluid. That's that kind of that Neptunian energy. So with that said, there tends to be, because of past hurts, for you to take on a thinking that, or a thought process that, you know, this is always the way it's going to be. But Spirit is basically telling you, release yourself from that. This is a self-imposed concept. Not all relationships result in heartbreak. Somebody else got this as well. Not all relationships result in heartbreak. And it's time for you to stop avoiding people. So you also got the Four of Swords in reverse. So the rest and respite card in reverse. It's time for you to get out of your shell. It's time for you to get out and socialize again. Although it's important that you form boundaries, forming those boundaries, right, is the key to you being able to survive and thrive, even if someone else makes a mistake. Because you can't really control what other people do, right? So since you can't control what other people do, you can control what you'll put up with. And that's those boundaries we're talking about. This is the line in the sand that I draw. This is okay with me, this is not. And a lot of it comes back to self-love and positive thinking. So remove the concept that you'll always be a victim, okay? That if you love, that you're just putting yourself out there to be stabbed repeatedly. That's not always the case. And get out there. Get out there and reconnect with people. Apparently you've been kind of hiding. Now subconscious is also talking to you about, so you got the Seven of Cups, which is the kind of like the fantasies card, but you got it in reverse. So while we're talking about relating with other people, the subconscious, the symbol that it's giving you here, the message that it's giving you here is to let go of fantasies, unrealistic fantasies about people. And again, that goes back to the original message of you cannot control what other people do. You can only control you and what you'll put up with, what's okay with you and what is not. So when you move out there into the world again, which it's encouraged that you do, again, you love love, you're compassionate, right? And people need you. You actually are a spiritual beacon for the rest of us. You are the last sign of the zodiac, which pretty much means you're the most evolved. You're the only one that kind of gets their own elemental attribution of ether by some astrologers. So as you're coming out of your shell, because we need you, we love you, we want you out there, and it's good for you to be out there. And you're getting rid of this idea that anytime you love, that your heart's going to be broken. At the same time, you've got to give up some childish fantasies about what love and relationships are, what people are supposed to do. Because people disappoint you. So you've got to be loving yourself and prepared enough to protect yourself without hiding, by drawing those boundaries and saying, okay, show up late one time, I'll let it slide. Show up late twice, that's bullshit, I'm going to call you out on it. That kind of thing. At the same token, I think you're being asked here to balance. So again, with the fluidity of Pisces, as I mentioned earlier, there tends to be no distinguishing between the you and the me. So therefore you give and give and give until you realize that, my gosh, my bucket's empty, right? I'm completely parched, I'm dried out, and there's no one around to get water from because I've given all my water away. With this concept of you letting go of old childish fantasies about how people are supposed to act, but getting out of your shell nonetheless, and letting go of the concept that you're a victim, that if you give your love or compassion that you'll be hurt. it is important that you maintain with these boundaries your resources. So keep in mind, as you're letting people, letting old fantasies go of what people should do and shouldn't do, because they'll disappoint you and they'll surprise you in a good way, both ways. But also, the point of the boundaries is to ensure that your bucket doesn't empty, that you don't give so much of yourself that there's nothing left and no one around to give it back to you. And that's the importance of taking care of yourself. It kind of all comes back to self-love. Sorry, yours is long. They are all long. I'm really chatty this month. Sorry, there's just a lot going on. But keeping balance of what you have. Okay, I need my me time on Wednesday nights because, that's my one day off during the week. And no, I don't want to go to parties, and I don't want to go to dinner parties, and I don't want to go out clubbing or anything like that. I really want to Netflix that night, or I really want to read and have a cup of tea that night. And if that is your vibe, then do it. That's taking care of yourself. That's maintaining your resources and drawing the boundaries so that you can enjoy life in a realistic way, enjoy relationships in a realistic way. I think that's pretty clear. I hope it's making sense to you. If you have questions on it, feel free to ask us questions in the comments section below. Or if you'd like a reading specific to you and your issues, feel free to email me at the email address in the description box below the video. It's mememes@hotmail.com. I'll be back for the lunations for the full moon partial lunar eclipse and then the new moon complete solar eclipse later on in the month. Elsewise, I'll talk to you next month, and you take good care of yourselves. Draw your boundaries, but most importantly, take care of your resources so that you can share with others but still flourish yourself. All right? Take care, Pisces.